Hey everyone, Marie here with Pretty Please. This week I made a layout about Kutna Hora, which is a place in the Czech Republic near Prague where there's a church that was entirely decorated with human bones. Even though that day had nothing to do with Halloween, I think that the theme is pretty creepy and that it could well be decorated or documented with Halloween and fall products. I used my collection Potpourri. I say my collection because I designed it for Pretty Little Studio 3 years ago, and it's still available on their website, prettylittlestudio.shop, if you're interested in any of these elements. Right now, the collection is pretty much all 50% off, so I'm not sure if it means that the collection will disappear soon, but anyway, if you're interested, I'll put a direct link to the collection in the description down below. Of course, this was a long day and I have taken a lot of pictures, so I decided to print many of them. I always prefer to print more than too little. I hate when I'm in the middle of a layout and I'm missing a picture or two, so I always print more than too little. Here I decided to print some pictures in small format and some others in bigger format. And I ended up using this big picture of me and my daughters in front of the orange wall, and to use all the other small square pictures of the inside of the church. Then I play with them almost like if it would be like a puzzle, and imagine that these are all puzzle pieces, and I tried to fit them on a 12 by 12 layout. I had seen a layout from Missy Whidden, and she was using a paper, I think it was from Dear Lizzie, and it was pretty similar to my paper. So I decided that I would use that paper and do the same as Missy, which means, like tearing off the paper to have a rough edge and putting my paper at the top like that. I really like, the rest is not like Missy's layout, but that was like my starting point. And I decided to put some pictures on top of the paper and some others that are coming from under the paper. I then sort of distressed the edges of my pattern paper by rolling a little bit with my thumb the side of the paper, letting some of the white that is under the paper show. And I did the same with the mat that goes around my focal picture. I don't really like this purple. I don't really like that color of cardstock, so I decided not to have too much show, just enough to make my photo pop out on the layout. I also distressed all the sides, tearing at some points, rolling at others, folding the edges. And then I'm still playing with my small pictures, trying to figure what's the best placement for each of them. The bottom picture and the side picture on the right, they are going to be falling off the page, and I'm going to cut a part of it. That brings a lot of interest when all your other pictures are square, to have some that are falling off the page, I call it. Since I don't have a lot of like Halloween embellishment, not in this collection that I'm using or in other collections that I have in my stash, I decided to make my own embellishments. I'm using some stamps. Here you saw that little scared pumpkin. I also have some spiders, some bats, and some spider webs that I'm going to stamp and emboss with black embossing powder. My journaling was typed with my typewriter on some white cardstock and cut into some strips that I will be adhering on my background. Here you see how I stamp the spider web directly on the background paper. I don't often do that. I can even say, I think I can say for sure that this was the first time that I did that. I usually, stamp on paper that I will cut around and I will use as die cuts. But this stamping and embossing directly on the background paper quite pleased me. It gives a lot of, it's like a feeling, you want to touch it, and it's pretty cool that it's directly on the background. It gives like a mysterious feel to the layout. I'm stamping at the bottom as well, embossing as well in black. The black of the 2 spider webs and the title in the middle of the layout pulls your eyes from the top to the bottom of the page, and it helps you like read the layout easily, even though there are a lot of things happening, the pictures, lots of embellishments. So it's kind of a leading line. That's good to have on the layout. Now I'm playing with those vellum leaves that are also part of my potpourri collection. I had a lot of leaves to choose from, and I decided to stick with the smaller ones and also colors that were all in the same family. I didn't want to use those lime greens to distract too much from the rest of my layout. Here I'm creating some more elements with more stamps of spiders and bats. I'm stamping them with Versamark ink on white cardstock and embossing them with black embossing powder. After that, I will fussy cut all of them. And now I am coloring with watercolors my pumpkin that I had already stamped and embossed. I'm using a paintbrush that has some water in the barrel, and I'm using my real watercolor palette, not markers or zig markers that I like to use usually. And I added some blue and some purples for the eyes and the shading. It gives a really nice embellishment at the end. You don't need to buy all the collections that come out, and you know, some of the things we can really do if we think about what we have in our stash and if we get creative a little. Here I added one little spider and I drew a spider web. It's super easy. I added my spiders with some foam tape to all my spider webs. And here with some vellum adhesive, just a tiny bit, I'm adhering the leaves that I'm going to stitch with my sewing machine. So I really just add a little so that they stay in place while I'm stitching them. I also glued the strips, just the middle of the strips, and I'm curling up the edges. Here with glue dots, I'm adhering some bats to my pictures. Also curling the little wings. And here are my stitched vellum leaves. I add more spiders, and my little pumpkin will come on foam adhesive. I really like the movement, to give movement and dimension to my layout, so I'm going to curl up ends where I can, and I can even leave some of the thread there sometimes. This time I decided to take it away. So now my little pumpkin is coming back. I'm going to add a flare button of a little ghost. I was wondering if I should use it as an O in Kutna Hora, but I decided that the word, since it's not English or French, I was wondering if future generations reading my layout would understand that this flare button was there in place of an O. So I decided finally to keep my, like the original title as is, easier to read. I guess you could use shapes like that to form letters, but in words that are easier to read and understand. I added the date with my roller stamp on a little label that is also part of the collection, so it makes all the color like go well together. And these sequins are also part of the collection, and even though they are not the same as the purple on the layout, I thought that they were perfectly going with my little one's vest there. Then one last label to add the location. I just used my black marker and added it by hand. It's fun to have different fonts, you know, like you have the title there, you have the typewriter font, you have the date stamp, you have handwriting, And I think that all of this together create more interest. And there you go, my layout is finished, and I will start working on the next page, the day in the village, right after that. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. That's very motivating for me. And leave me a comment if you liked something, if you didn't like something, if you got inspired, and if it struck an idea or something. It's fun to share and to get inspired from one another. That's what makes this scrapbooking community so fun. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I hope to see you back soon on my channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.